Tell us how you started in the business here.
Okay, I'll try and do the shortest version possible. I started out in junior high school managing bands, putting on shows. In high school, I managed a guy named Eric Carmen, all by myself, raspberries.
Sure.
And I worked on the weekends at a National Guard armory helping promote shows that were live concerts tied into a TV show in Cleveland called Upbeat. Upbeat was sort of like the local Dick Clark American Bandstand. And so I used to do a thing at the Chagrin Armory every Friday night, and they would book talent on the TV show and then have them come in the day before and bring them around to a bunch of these National Guard armories and Knights of Columbus halls and VFW halls. So it was, at the time, it was Tommy James and the Shondells and Cannibal and the Headhunters.
I remember them all.
So every week there'd be a different act coming through. Went off to school at Ithaca, New York, Ithaca College in pre-med.
Ithaca, God, okay.
And when I got there, I got into school very easily. I get to school there and find out that they have like the best communication school. Columbia University, Ithaca, and Boston University in the Northeast were the three schools you went to if you wanted to go into television, into advertising. I get there and someone says, "You can come hear Rod Serling speak." Rod Serling? They
The
said,
Twilight Zone, for all you young folks that don't know. Google that, Rod Serling, Twilight Zone.
So it turns out Rod Serling was teaching writing for television at Ithaca. He lived up there. I go there and I hear him speak. I go over to the broadcasting school, to the broadcast communication school, and sit down with one of the professors and said, "Here's my high school history. I did bands, I did all this stuff." And he said, "You should be over here, we'll transfer you." Had I applied to go to school there, I would have never gotten in. The school, thousands of people applied for the program that I basically went from pre-med into, and was there for the next couple of years, and then got too busy doing all that stuff and didn't go to class a lot. So they sent me home for a semester. Came back to Cleveland. I met Billy Bass and I met Steve Popovich and Frank DeLeo. And
promotion titans, folks, back in the day.
Frank DeLeo ended up managing Michael Jackson. Steve Popovich ended up signing Meatloaf and doing the Bat Out of Hell album. And they basically mentored me and brought me into Columbia Records. I then went to Warner Records, did local promotion, got in trouble every week for running away with the band. And after running away with the band every week, they decided to move me into artist development, which was running away with the band.
Which was artist development. That, folks, was running away with the band with the credit card from the company, correct?
Yeah, but I mean, that's artist relations.
Oh, sorry, artist relations.
I always get very defensive about that. Artist relations was taking the band out to dinner after the show. Artist development was planning the tour. Did the band do a club tour? Were they, for instance, you mentioned Van Halen. We had to make a big decision. Van Halen had not played any place much bigger than the Whiskey. They played maybe a hall in Pasadena that they rented out. But basically, they were an amazing club band. We decided, we got Frank Barcelona from Premier Talent to book them. Frank Barcelona was the most amazing agents that ever lived. And he had U2, and he had Jethro Tull, and he had everybody. Anyway, Pretenders. And we got Barcelona and Barbara Skydell to book them. And we put them on the Journey tour. And they were the third act on the Journey tour, and they killed Journey. But they played every night to 12,000, 15,000 people, ended up selling 5 million albums on the first tour. Had we decided, via the artist development department, to put them on a club tour, they would have also killed. But it would have taken another 2 years.
Speaking of killing, you know, now, Ted makes it sound like it's a really, really, really tough gig. And it is, but, you know, we played Van Halen at the top. I want to show you how tough it was, folks. Can we show this picture here, Darren? Ted, is that you in the middle?
That's
with
me
the mustache?
in the middle between those two girls. If you look at the DJ down below, you will see his eyes.
I wasn't looking at him, Ted.
No, I know, but you'll see his eyes are a little watery because if you look to the bottom left of the picture, you'll see a bunch of bottles of champagne.
Yeah.
If you look at the clock, it's roughly 4:45 in the afternoon. We showed up with these two girls at, I think it was KISW in Seattle.
Yeah. Was this artist relations?
This was artist development. This was a mid-afternoon radio interview. We hired these two girls. They came dressed as Catholic schoolgirls, full parochial ties and white shirts and the blazer and the pleated skirt. And then they very quietly, as the interview was about maybe 10 minutes into the interview, just very casually started to strip. And it really helped the airplay.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
No, really, it was an airplane thing.
Well, you know, Van Halen was always a very sensitive, thoughtful act. Okay, now take the transition to your series, because we embarrassed the hell out of Audrey over here. She was cringing.
So the transition was, Warner moved me to Boston to be on the East Coast, to basically be on the receiving end of every band that was coming in from Europe. So I worked with Pretenders, Leo Sayer, King Crimson, Asia, all these different bands. But there was a big tech community in Boston. Boston was the tech community before Silicon Valley.
Yep.
And the guys at a company called Advent. Advent was a speaker company, but they also made a big screen TV that was amazing. They made the first large screen thing for your home. They had me go to CES with them in 1977 in Chicago, because CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, was in Chicago before it ever went to Las Vegas. Anyway, we're there. We're in the Drake Hotel, sitting in the suite, and there's a knock on the door, and these two scruffy guys that looked homeless come in. And they introduce themselves, and it's Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. And they've got the Apple I computer under their arm.
Oh, God.
And they're showing us the Apple I computer, which was the first computer that could do color graphics. And they had come to see the folks from Advent to say, we'll trade you one of these computers when we make more of them for one of these big screen TVs. So they were selling the computer for around $3,000, $4,000 at the time. The TV was selling for $3,000, $4,000. To put it in perspective, you could probably buy one of the TVs now for $11 at a yard sale. And that Apple I computer a few months ago went for $250,000 at Sotheby's.
Gotta love it.
Anyway, so that got me into computers. I came back to Boston. Todd Rundgren took me to the Boston Computing Store on Mass Ave and started basically explaining how computers were going to change my life. Todd was a big influence on my career in terms of he got me into video and he got me into computers. Then I met the Atari folks. And that led to, in 1982, a guy named Stan Cornen.
Sure.
Who was a genius.
Distribution, right?
Complete fucking, I can say complete fucking genius.
You can say complete fucking genius, although my wife keeps telling me I got to stop swearing so much.
Okay. Well,
Sorry.
he's a complete genius. He was the creative guy at Warner, but he also was the technologist, as was Jack Holzman at Elektra. And he got me on a committee in '82 that was talking about the personal computer had now been out for about 4 years. The CD was coming out in '83. And we started talking about the inevitability of how the personal computer was going to have an impact on the music industry. And the guy who led the group was a guy named Alan Kay. And Alan came from Xerox. He was the guy who invented the mouse and the graphic interface. That Apple borrowed for the Lisa and then for the Mac. Alan left Xerox, came to Atari, called Stan, said, we really need to get ahead of this. This was '82, getting ahead of it. I don't know if we ever got ahead of it, but we tried to get ahead of it.
Tried for a minute.
So we talked about what the music fan would want to do if they could control the experience. So we started looking at interface design. We started looking at experiences. That led to me leaving. In April of '84, I went to see Spinal Tap with Robert Fripp and Tony Levin from King Crimson. Watched the movie and walked into Mo Austin's office the next morning and said, I'm out. I'll see you later. It was fun. It was every band.
And you left behind that torturous life of going to radio stations with Van Halen.
Yeah.